Welcome, Fulham fans, to another episode of Live by the River and exciting news. Live by the River, a Fulham fan podcast, has launched a channel on YouTube. Yes, listeners, our pod is available anywhere. Well, just like Anthony Hopkins in Transformers First Night, a great actor can sometimes deliver a bit of a stinking performance. And luckily for Fulham, Nottingham Forest's star players weren't at the races at the Craven Cottage. Did you think that was the key reason why we won the other day? Was it because Forest didn't really turn up, their star players were just under par?
I think they just tried to grind a result out and it didn't really work. I think teams are much more effective against us when they're more aggressive and they go at us. And I think they were just a bit passive. The whole game was passive, to be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't a high quality game. Do you think, though, that many people are quite excited by Fulham's clean sheet? Is that very, very important, or is it still about entertainment? I mean, if you think about the purpose of football, it is to entertain. That certainly wasn't an entertaining match. But do you think it is really, really important that, yeah, we didn't have any sort of real creativity, but is it more important we kept that clean sheet?
I think if it's a wider discussion, then yes, obviously I'd rather see us win 4-3 than 1-0. But in the context of this game, losing all our creative players to AFCON, being actually quite perilously close to the relegation zone, I think it was quite reassuring to see us just grind out a 1-0 horrible game to watch. I mean, I'm sure a lot of neutrals are bemoaning the fact that it was the game on TV. Yeah. And it was a game we kind of needed to win just for our own security. And, you know, this could come back to bite me, but I really do think that's okay. We can breathe a sigh of relief now. I think that kind of mini gap between us, Leeds, Forest, and then obviously West Ham, Wolves and Burnley, who look to be pretty much doomed, I think that's enough of a gap that we can actually start focusing, as you said, on the more idealistic things that we want to see in the season. Because for a second there, it was getting pretty worrying. But yeah, solid performance in terms of it wasn't a catastrophe. We didn't concede loads of goals like we've been doing. But I do think we were fortunate to get the win. I think we won due more to a mistake than us being good. But the fact that we were solid, you know, that's a good thing. That's something to celebrate.
Definitely, and I think we'll just pick out some of the promising aspects of that match before we go on to the less promising aspects. That I thought Raul and the fact that we can now rely on someone so assuredly to take penalties is such a relief after, you know, decades of always being so nervous. When I mean, in some cases, we actually didn't want a penalty to be awarded because we couldn't stand the pain of the wait and then the inevitable miss.
Yeah.
Which was awful. And even I got a bit of a flashback when Kevin fell to the floor and then we had the penalty awarded. Oh God, I don't think I can bear to watch this. But when Raul stepped up and the fact that he waited with such composure, and it was quite a long wait because obviously VAR had to check it.
Yeah.
Do you think that even though he hasn't scored much from, free play, he still worked his way in gold?
I wouldn't go that far. And I think especially as he's not been fit, I think sometimes, especially in the press, we're playing with minus a player. So in this game and the Newcastle game, I saw that when we were defending, Raul was often going to the right midfield because he just didn't have the legs to press the defenders, and it was actually Wilson who was in that striker spot pressing the defenders. So we've actually got minus a player in defence. Now, can Raul still hold it up reasonably well? Yes. Can he do lovely touches here and there, like give and goes? I mean, obviously the Wilson goal against Palace was a lovely give and go with Raul, but I think if we had a real goal-scoring striker, we'd be 3 or 4 places higher. Having said that, as we're focusing on the positives, that's Raul's 11 out of 11 Premier League penalties for us and Wolves. I think he's only missed 2 in his career. I believe 1 was for Mexico and the other was in the Europa League quarter-final for Wolves. Because I know a few Wolves fans were getting a bit frustrated after the interview where he said I've never missed.
Oh.
And they were thinking, well, yes, you have. You missed
Yeah.
a quite big one. But for us in the Premier League, absolutely agree. It's so nice to just feel like, well, when Silva's not randomly changing the penalty taker like he did last season, where he took Raul off it and put Pereira off it. If it's Raul taking the penalties, we can be reasonably assured. And it's not just the 11 penalties he scored in the Premier League. If you remember those penalty shootouts, there was the one against Preston, the 16-17 one, obviously we lost, but he scored 2 in that. And it's just knowing that we have a consistent penalty taker. He has that style, that sort of Tony-esque style where if you do it right, it's not really savable, because if you hold your nerve, the keeper has to do something, even if it's doing nothing, and then he can just put it in the other corner. So, I wouldn't go as far to say as he's worth his weight in gold, but I think it's so nice that we get a penalty, and we don't get a lot of penalties, but a penalty via XG is a 0.8% chance, like 80% chance of a goal.
Okay.
With Raul, it actually is an 80, if not 90% chance, and it wasn't for Fulham fans in the past. In the past, it felt like 50%.
It was a really high risk event, a penalty for Fulham, and the fact that it's our first penalty since January that we've been awarded.
Well, I think part of that is the way we attack. I think we attack. It's a lot to do with overlaps on the wings. It's a lot to do with the inverted wingers. So it's usually a winger playing with their stronger foot coming inside. So obviously Kevin with his right foot on the left, and then Wilson with his left foot on the right. And it's a fullback bombing on, and it's about getting crosses in. And I just think, could we maybe play for penalties a bit more, like Brentford do? Like, could we try and get players who enter the box more with the ball? Because, like we said, we've got a penalty specialist, so why not try and make the absolute most of that?
Did we? I mean, our wingers did threaten on occasion. So you're talking about Kevin. And again, another positive for him, I think he did have a better game, but there are obviously still issues where he can't make that he can't simplify that final shot. So he did have a couple of chances. What do you think is the reason why he can't seem to take that final effective last ball? What is it? Just the fact that he's still very young, very new to the Premier League, or is that just too an easy an excuse?
Yeah, it's a strange one, because he's not ridiculously young. He's not like a teenager where you can excuse all of that. Like, he should have the fundamentals there. It might just be it needs to click. I mean, this is still his first half season, or not even half season in the Premier League. So we're far from drawing a line under it, but he doesn't seem to have any composure in front of goal. There have been a few occasions where it's kind of broken for him, and he doesn't seem to have that electrifying pace or dynamism that even Chukwueze has, where if Chukwueze sees an opportunity, he really strikes at it and is very dynamic. I think from what we've seen, Kevin likes it best to feet, where he can face the play and he can stand players up, and then he can do these jinky, mazy runs, as opposed to, striking through space and really making a real dynamic impression of the team. So more like Willian in that regard.
And Savona didn't do too well against him. He didn't have a great game. But again, he's very young, like Kevin. Also, there was the issue that I think maybe one of the best players, Sangare, was on at AFCON. And I think they really missed him today.
I'll be careful with that, because we are definitely missing more impactful players. Like, they have a massive squad for us. They're really, really good squads.
They managed. They brought in Douglas Luiz,
and they have an England international in Anderson, who I actually thought had quite a poor game.
He did
by his standards.
By his standards, because he's just such a, the potential of that lad is unbelievable, and Douglas Luiz is still pretty good. I mean, his Opta, and I know again we're all gagging to hear the Opta scores, but he was the top player for Forest with 21.2. 6 tackles,
even
4 intercepts.
With the penalty.
Yeah, which again, I mean, people are saying that maybe he didn't have a great game, but he still did pretty well. And Anderson was the second highest, I think.
It wasn't
Forest.
really a game when at the end of the game you're kind of looking at central defenders getting man of the match. It kind of tells you that no one was really able to shine, and it's essentially just the players who had most of the ball, which were the centre backs, that you're going for. But yeah, the thing about Anderson, he's very brave. That was as in there, Anderson.
Yes, yeah.
Is he's very brave. He gets the ball and he passes forward. And I just think this game, it just wasn't really coming off. He was still trying those forward passes, but I remember there were a few times where it just went straight out of play.
Yeah. But those are glaringly obvious. I mean, the fact that he made 15.2 passes, which were successful, whereas Gibbs White didn't have I felt that he did that overhead, that
it was
kick,
offside, I think,
and it was offside. But his Opta score was 9.6. So to me, he really didn't perform at all.
Do we want to give credit to, especially I thought Lukic pressed their midfield quite well.
Well, it's funny you said that because Lukic is the second highest Opta result. He had 22.4, 10 tackles, 2 intercepts. So I felt he was really effective until obviously he was taken off.
I thought he was everywhere. Maybe just that little rest out of the team has done him good, because he really looks to be completely energised, and he was pressing really effectively.
He was. Whereas maybe Berger, I thought, didn't have the greatest of games, and his Opta result was 7.8. And he did play 66 minutes. Obviously, he was taken off in the 66th minute.
Well, we know my opinion on this, which is just I think Berger is a lesser player when Lukic is on the pitch.
Yeah, and he's not a defensive midfielder, which is because Lukic was. Would you agree was playing higher up?
Yeah, Lukic was doing all the pressing and the runs off the ball as well. So I don't want to say it makes Berger more redundant, but I think it does take away from his game.
It does, because that's not his strength, is it, defensively? And that sort of proves it. His accurate passes again were lower than what you would expect. Overall, though, again another worrying stat, or maybe you'd say, well, this is why we had a clean sheet, is that successful final third passes. Forest had 96 to our 69, so it did seem that we. Certainly in the second half, we just fell back.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit like watching a Parker side. We just fell back and we were absorbing all this pressure. And again, I thought that was really worrying, because we tend not to be able to deal with that. But because Forest weren't having a great game, we managed to ride it out. Is that unfair?
I don't think it's unfair. I think maybe that was the best way. Maybe Silva didn't have faith in that this team could score a goal, especially a second half Raul, who's going to be less energised, more tired. He clearly doesn't have any faith in Kusisari. Traore kind of came on. Again, it looks like he's going to go in January.
Yeah.
So
Traore, again, 0.8 for his Opta result. So again, that second half was worrying, especially the beginning, because Forest came out and they pressed us and we were really, really uncomfortable with it. And we could barely string a pass together. And also, we couldn't seem to get the ball out from the back. We were really, really struggling. So I think Forest did look like they might score in the first part of the second half. But then Kearney was brought on, and completely opposite to what I thought would happen, he actually did seem to control the game more.
He controlled the tempo, yeah. He was asking for the ball. He was actually demanding the ball. And there were even a few times where someone had it in a forward position, you could hear him shouting for it, and he would pass him back, and he was just like popping the ball off, going long, going short. But the game demanded that in that moment, so I want to credit Silva, because I am quick to criticise if he doesn't. Credit Silva with that substitution. It was, the game needed calm from our end, because we were 1-0 up. They wanted to make the game chaotic. They kind of needed to make the game chaotic. So they brought on, obviously, we brought on a player who is the antithesis of chaos.
And just to back up your point that he did calm everything down, was that before he came on, in the second half, up to the 57th minute, passes in the final third, we had 5 in Forest's final third, and they had 40. they literally were hemming us in. And it was only when Kenny came on and Berger came off that some kind of parity, some balance began to be re-established. So a really, really great sub. And like you say, we have really, really sort of had it in for Silva regarding his substitutions. But this one, he got absolutely spot on. Would you also say that we did kind of quieten their wingers down? That we were effective against their wingers. So Hudson-Odoi and Hutchinson had quiet games.
We kind of had a conversation, didn't we, about the man of the match, and it was between Anderson and Tete, and we thought Tete had a really good game. He was just really probably should and could have got an assist at the very end, where him and King do a lovely bit of interplay.
Oh, that was the only bit of creative flair that I can actually remember.
Yeah, well, Raul could have scored 2 headers.
He could have done.
Where it was from both fullbacks. I mean, I thought Robinson, again, he seems to be almost recharging up to the robot that he was. And I thought, to answer your first question, they did a good job. I mean, Hutchinson did have a few moments where he's a really technical player and he's got amazing close control. So he had a few moments of success, but I thought ultimately we did a really good job at just pressing them as a unit. I thought Lukic was integral to that. I thought Tete was. And I think most outlets gave Anderson man of the match. Yeah. And obviously he broke his finger, I believe. Because it was going the wrong direction.
It was in the wrong direction, and credit to him, he didn't seem to even wince.
But he had a few, spraying passes. But as we say, it was one of those games where the centre backs had most of the ball, and him and Cuenca, I just thought Cuenca just seems a much more solid, conservative choice to Bassi. Bassi's kind of the stylish one who he'll bomb up and down, do overlaps, and he will do kind of erratic things. Maybe technically superior to Cuenca, but Cuenca's just someone who you feel really secure and safe when he's in that back line.
And I do like Cuenca because he seems to really enjoy playing for us, and not condoning it, but I did like the fact that he really stood up for himself when Milenkovic fell down or was pushed or whatever.
Nothing, because Milenkovic, who's about 8'3", went down under nothing trying to win a penalty, and then all Cuenca did was try and get him up, and then it was.
So that showed that he can stand up for himself, which is what we need in a centre back. But I thought that we were lucky in winning that match. I think would you say that really it was a 0-0 draw, if we're going to be completely honest about it? But we needed a bit of luck and we got it. And if you do think about it, it was a soft penalty, but no more or less than would have been given to any other team, I think.
So I think I've said this in a previous year. And just because it's gone for us, I'm not going to change my opinion. I don't like the fact that these sorts of fouls... there was a similar one, I think 2, maybe even 3 seasons ago, where Robinson, and I'm going to use big air quotes here, fouled Kevin De Bruyne. Oh, and he was facing away from the goal, and he tapped him, and obviously De Bruyne went down. And I think there needs to be some sort of... It won't, because penalties are so important, but there needs to be some sort of alteration where, if the chance, whether they find it out via XG or whether it's outside the width of the goalposts, is so small that the defender fouling the attacker doesn't really gain the defensive team an advantage, I don't think the team should get a penalty for it. And I know this is insane for a Fulham fan to say, but Kevin does well because he retains the ball. It's good close ball control, but he's facing away from goal. There's about 4 defenders in between, and then Douglas Luiz just does a lazy challenge, which yes, he should be punished for that, but we've just been given an 80% chance of a goal, which we really didn't deserve. I'm looking at it from we've got a win there, but what can we take from that? Did we deserve the win? Did we play a win? No, in my opinion we didn't. So I've got to be philosophically consistent. I think those penalties are penalties, but they almost, in terms of it is a foul, but I think they need to change that.
Yeah. Well, it encourages diving, doesn't it? It encourages someone just to fall down like a sack of spuds when they've been tapped. Yeah. And that's, we don't want that.
Really, a penalty is supposed to be a deterrent for a defensive team to just scythe down a player who's one-on-one with the keeper.
It's not that anymore, is it?
Whereas this is something completely different. I remember the Champions League final where Mane won a penalty off Sissoko. It was Liverpool v Spurs in the first minute. And like it's right on the edge of the box and it hits Sissoko's arms, and it's like you've essentially decided a final with a fairly innocuous piece of play. For Liverpool fans, they probably would have won anyway. But the point is that you're just rewarding a team that probably shouldn't be rewarded to that extent. And I think we were rewarded perhaps disproportionately to what we did to deserve it.
But having said that...
Yeah, sorry, I know I just...
No, I agree. Nevertheless,
it was good from Kevin. Points... It was good from Kevin, shielding the ball. Yeah. He recycled it really well. And like I said, I think when he's got the ball to feet and when he's facing up play, it looks like the record signing. It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope he keeps developing. I mean, slowly but surely, keep developing and getting his confidence going. And hopefully we'll get a player that can actually finish as well as doing all the dribbly bits. So... great for us to get that win, and we've now got West Ham on Saturday, and they're viewing this as an absolutely crucial game.
Which
they're calling it like it's like a cup final. They have to win. What do you think? What should we be hoping for?
Not to win. We can afford, obviously we don't want a loss, but they need to win. So they're going to be throwing everything at it.
They're going to be really, really up for this.
We had a good record against Nuno the previous few seasons, so I think a draw wouldn't be a disaster. Obviously we want to win, but we're coming against a team who are fighting for their life.
Please join us when we review the West Ham match after Saturday, and do hope you're enjoying the Christmas holiday, and hopefully you can join us then.